Hello and welcome back to the Wrexham Way. Hope you're all doing well and looking forward to today's episode as we take on Wolves and Crystal Palace in the Premier League. But we're going to have to do it without George Rankin. You've seen the video title. It happened. Release fee clause triggered, this time by a club who he actually wanted to join. It's Man United. Although United weren't the only team making bids for him, PSG and Man City also made bids for him, and he decided to go to Man United. And one thing that you won't like is that I haven't replaced him and actually got rid of another right winger as well. So you might not be happy, but I'll tell you why you should be, and don't panic. So we'll start off with Luciao. I've sent him out on loan to Palmeiras in Brazil to get some regular game time for the rest of the Brazilian season, which finishes at the end of December. So he will be back for us in January, which is fine. He's got half a season away to prove himself, essentially, because I'm not that impressed with him so far in his career at Wrexham. The past two seasons, 6.46 and a 6.8. Nothing special. But of course, when I sent him out on loan, I assumed that Rankin was going to stay at the club. That's not been the case. He's gone to Man United for £45.5 million and is now valued at quite a lot of money. However, I don't think they'll ever sell him for that sort of money, and I don't think he's worth that sort of money, and I don't think he's actually the greatest player in the world. I don't think he's the sort of player that's going to win you a Champions League, for example. I fully expect George Rankin to sit on the bench at Man United. Yes, he's got pace, agility, acceleration, crossing and dribbling. That's about it, really. He's got some decent mentals too to help him out a little bit, but as a complete player, he's not a complete player. And actually, if I was Man United, they still have Rebergen on their books. I'd probably rather play Rebergen over George Rankin, if I'm honest with you. So to get that 45 million, I think is a really good bit of business for us. Obviously, that release fee clause helped us out massively, and we've not replaced him because we actually have some decent players who can play right wing, but I want to try out until January. And if they don't work out, then maybe we get rid of them, we get rid of Luciao, and we bring in some other players that we nearly brought in at the end of the transfer window. I just didn't want to panic because as soon as I saw George Rankin leaving the club, I did panic and I thought, right, we need to get someone else in. And the best player I could find was this guy called Unava. Now, Uanda actually does look like a better player on paper than George Rankin. Rankin's got him on the pace department, but everywhere else, apart from physical and technicals where they are the same, Uanda is better. However, he had a release fee clause of 45 million and his wages were looking to be around £100,000 a week. And to make £500,000 of profit on George Rankin, essentially in that sort of deal, and then be paying loads of money in wages, didn't quite sit right with me. Even though this guy looks really good, I thought there's maybe better options out there to look for. And so the release fee clause is going to stay there for this chap. We can get him in January if we are absolutely desperate. But I wanted to look for more options because we didn't really have a whole lot of options scouted out on the right wing. And so far, we've actually found quite a few decent players on the right wing who we could look to maybe bring in. The best one right now for me is this Alex guy, who I can't pronounce the surname of, but 20 years old, looks pretty decent across some decent areas, although finishing a little bit low, and so are things like long shots and stuff like that, but it's not too much of an issue. He's described, though, as a wonder kid, and that's what gets me excited, particularly with the potential as well, and a lot cheaper than the previous player. So I didn't want to rush into anything, I didn't want to panic, particularly when we aren't actually convinced yet if we're going to stick with wingers as our primary formation or with centre midfielders as our primary formation. That's maybe the best way to differentiate between the two. And so I think having some time until January to play Sione on the right wing, see how he performs as an inside forward, potentially also Daniel Patrick actually, who's actually very good on the right-hand side of the pitch. If we look at his attributes needed to be a winger, crossing a little bit low, but everything else is actually really solid to be a right winger. So Daniel Patrick could play there, who's now got one cap for Brazil, I may add, in the international break we've just played through, which is very exciting. And then, of course, we also have, if I can find him, Thad Davies, who can play on the right-hand side as well as a winger. A little bit slow, but I think could do a job for us fundamentally. If none of those players work out on the right wing, then maybe we look to bring someone else in at that point. I just didn't want to panic and splurge 45 million on a player that might actually not be any good for us. And actually, Uanda, the player we're looking at, his average ratings have been terrible the past two seasons at Cardiff. So, again, there's no indication that he'd be a great player for us. So it's been interesting in terms of transfers and squad balance. Hopefully you guys agree with me. I'm sure a lot of you guys won't agree with me, but I hope you do. Stick with it. We'll see how things go until January. We are also still testing out different formations as well as to see which one is probably the one we should be looking at long term. I'm still not decided on it, essentially. So last time you were here, we had the 2-2 draw against Newcastle, 2-0 down, brought it back to 2-2, a great result. The next game against West Ham at home, we went for the centre midfielder formation, the 3 centre mids, and we lost 1-0 to West Ham, but we did have more shots, a higher XG and slightly more possession, so unlucky to lose that game in my opinion. We then played wingers for 3 games in a row. 2 of them were essentially championship clubs. Birmingham in the EFL Cup second round with a rotated lineup. We won 3-0, Ricardo Pepi with 2 goals in that game, which was superb for him. We then played Burnley with a full-strength lineup and beat them 5-1, but Burnley just got promoted, so essentially both Birmingham and Burnley are championship clubs and championship-level players, so maybe not the best tests to see how wingers work. We also played wingers against Man City, who are maybe potentially the best team in the world, and they thrashed us 3-0. So maybe these games aren't a great test of how good wingers actually are for us. The next games we've played, though, has been with the 3 midfielders, and we have won them both. First of all, against Tottenham, but let me preface this, that Tottenham are absolutely terrible this season and are currently 19th in the Premier League table with just a point to their name against Leicester, so they're not great. They're not great, actually, at the moment, Tottenham, so let's not think that's a great result for us. It is a great result for us, obviously, but it's Tottenham. We then tried it against Brighton in the EFL Cup third round with a full-strength lineup, and we thrashed them 4-1. However, I'm unsure if Brighton actually played a full-strength lineup in that team, so they just sort of rolled over a little bit. So I don't think we've had a proper test of how good these formations could be. Until today, we're going to use wingers against Wolves and midfielders against Palace, I think. So after the 5 games we've played in the league so far this season, we sit 12th in the table right now on 7 points, level with Man United actually in terms of points, with 2 wins and 2 losses and 1 draw compared to the 1 win of United and 4 draws that they've had so far. Teams that we have played so far, actually, you'll be interested to know, West Ham and Newcastle, for example, are right up there in the Europa League places already, so they're having a good start to the season. Burnley, who actually I said weren't that great, are 8th right now on 9 points, so maybe I've done them a little bit dirty. So, jumping into this first game against Wolverhampton Wanderers, Mantle stays in goal, been pretty decent for us so far, although, has had his moments, of course, as all keepers do. The back line is the exact same with Suntesic, Felipe Saliba and Neto in it. Lavia starts in the CDM spot, but this time Batsner and Daniel Patrick are just in front of him, given that we have had to rotate a few players around for fitness issues, as you can probably see from all the hearts here, particularly Sousa being quite low in terms of fitness. Hobson starts on the left, Sione on the right, and Pereira leads the line with his 3 goals so far this season, but actually Ricardo Pepi leads the way with his 5 goals so far this season. So, as kickoff is upon us here today, I'm still a little bit annoyed actually about this match screen. I wish I could just get live scores and tables on here as well, because I've actually found these average positions to be quite useful in trying to work out how players are performing and where they are on the pitch. I've never looked at much before in the past, to be fair, and to have the live data coming through is really useful. I'm not quite sure how much I block off this, but I'll move myself out of the way if I do, so you could see it when I was talking about it just then. But it is kind of useful to have on the screen to just sort of see where your players are and things like that. But you can't customise the rest of that screen, so I can't get the league table on there, which is a little bit frustrating, but it is what it is. In the meantime, Pereira coming forward with the ball for us right now, gets it out wide, puts across to Batsner, and who hods it down to Sione, who shoots from the edge of the area, should have brought it into the area a little bit more in my opinion, puts it over the bar. Although another chance for us right now with Daniel Patrick to put a ball into Batsner on the, well, not quite edge of the area, but we are working it out wide. Suntesic now can put a ball across the 6-yard area, does. Players brought down, no penalty, back to Suntesic, across to the middle. The keeper blocks it from going across to the far post of Sione, but in doing so, puts it into the path of Pedro Pereira and puts it in the back of the net to make it 1-0. You love to see it. The question is, have the wingers played much of a role in this? The answer, probably not, because Daniel Patrick's there, Suntesic is there. I mean, we're not really seeing much of Hobson involved in that. Interesting. Although saying that, he's on a 7 rating right now, so maybe that does say something about him as a player, potentially. But half-time, we are dominating things right now against a poor Wolves team, to be fair. They've not been great in recent seasons. In fact, I think they've been a bit of a yo-yo team, if I remember correctly, so that's something. Actually, I'm aware I could change one of these to the league table, but I do quite like to see Actually, we don't need the Wolves stats, do we? It's not telling me anything about their positions. I could do with like a Wolves formation, actually. That would be handy. If I could just customise the whole match screen here, that would be wonderful. But I can't, as Balogun scores a goal for Wolves. So, not ideal. Okay, right. We've got 25 minutes left in this game or so. Let's make a couple of changes. Sione on the right-hand side, having a poor game. That does suggest that maybe wingers aren't having a great time of things, but he's playing as an inside forward. We'll swap him with Daniel Patrick and we'll bring onto the pitch Panyatov, which I'm still struggling to say. It's Panayotov. Panayotov, Tom. Get used to it. Panayotov. I know he's got one goal already today as well, but I think if we swap Pereira over with Pepe, that might just give us an injection of pace up top as well. And in terms of players looking quite tired, well, actually, to be fair, Daniel Patrick is one of those players looking quite tired. Maybe Thad Davies comes on for his debut. So, 20 minutes to go in this game. We have dominated the match stats, but right now it's level on the score sheets, 1-1 apiece. And Wolves looking to come forward. Can they get that killer ball into the middle? Hopefully not. They don't need a killer ball into the middle. Oh dear. Okay, well that's obviously not preferential for us. And it's not been a great display for us so far. But Panyatov is through. Can't score. Pepe though. I mean, I big us up. I big us up, right, from in between episodes and say, look, we've been great doing this, this and this. And then today, we've seen Mantle concede 2 goals, which maybe he shouldn't really be conceding. Pepe's missed an open goal, basically, which he did actually in last episode as well, and went on to score plenty in between episodes, which is frustrating. Suntesic, though, finds Pepe. If we can just get this ball forward properly, like we've had the chances to score today, as Pepe's now through again, and again, keeper making a good save this time. Pepe's getting these chances, but they're not being put into the back of the net. I'm going to shout demand more as the corner comes in. We're gathering at the near post, but Thad Davies gets in the way, plays it back to the taker, who might be offside in the process. He is, and that's a frustrating way to finish that highlight. Still plenty of time left in this game, but we might have to change some of the roles to more attacking duties, potentially, as Hobson now gets the ball on the left-hand side, is then just tackled immediately. Not great for Hobson, not great for the winger situation right now, as the ball in the middle is put in the back of the net. That's game over, isn't it? Game over. Definitely feels like one of those games, because I've just seen the match stats, and Wolves have had 3 shots on target. 3 shots on target are what Wolves have had. But I mean, if we just had some better finishing here today, things would have been completely different. Our XG is a 2, which is, you know, I don't know. Wolves, by the way, have come back into this game massively in the second half. I didn't realise that. Half time they had 1 shot. They're now up to 12, make that 13, which is level with us. So actually, Wolves have dominated this second half, I must say. Obviously, they made some changes. That's why I need to maybe get a formation sheet on there for Wolverhampton Wanderers, but I can't because they can't customise it, which is frustrating. Altogether, not a great game. Threw that one away, really. Thrashed the arms. Should have won that match. And that suggests that maybe wingers aren't the greatest thing in the world for us right now. But we did play a game literally 2 days before then. We were quite tired. Not sure if Wolves did or not, because I think it was a cup game. They might have been knocked out already. I don't know. A lot of factors to think about there, but that's a game we really should not have lost. For the next game against Palace, we will switch up formations. I mean, we could also argue as well that it wasn't quite our full-strength lineup as well, because we did have a few players rotating in and out because of fitness issues, so it wasn't really a reflective team, but I don't think I can make too many excuses for that performance in the second half. We dominated the first half, which was great. Second half, not so good. Also, Panayotov, which again, I'm struggling to say, but Panayotov, I think is the correct way to say it. He wants a new contract. He's asked for quite a while, to be fair. And we discussed the issue with him, and he just says, oh, I'm not bothered. So, you know, he's got a release fee clause of like 74 million. Like, if someone triggers that, that's fine by me. 3 years left on his deal as well. We'll offer him a new contract at some... In fact, what's the harm in offering one now? It just depends if he has a release fee clause in there. And he is locking it in there, as you can see. But if we can bump it up to 97 million and lock him in, that's all right by me. If we can get this down to 30 grand a week, he's on like 13 right now. So it's a big bump in that. but it'd be worth it for £100 million if someone bids £100 million for him, right? But it doesn't really fundamentally change anything, does it? He wants more money, obviously, understandably, because they all do. 32 grand a week, happy on that. Let's get it offered to him to keep him around at the club for a while. We don't want another situation when we lose a key player. Okay, Palace up next then, away from home. So it's quite handy we've actually had 2 away games here today to maybe just compare and contrast things a little bit. We are going to switch up to the midfielder formation, and we're going to pick the first team that I've picked out for this midfielder formation, which is pretty familiar. I guess Panayotov comes into the middle, Pepe starts up top along with Pereira because the wingers come off. So they're the 2 changes into the team. Everyone else stays the same, and for me, I think it should work. Ostergaard injured to come off the bench, shouldn't he then, for let's bring Carlos Andre onto the bench to play midfield, submit the team, go to the game, see how this one fares. Now, this one is a little bit more different, this formation. It does appear to me, and it is probably a little bit more attacking. So maybe that's something we should look to use a little bit more against weaker teams, maybe wingers against teams that are better than us. But first goal of the game goes to Panayotov, and I really still struggle. I panic every time to say his name. Panayotov. It'll get to me at some point, but I'm just not used to saying it, basically. I don't know why I'm so confused by it and why it gets me so much. It's just not typically an English word, is it, I suppose? So maybe that's why I'm struggling with it a little bit. But he scores a superb free kick there to give us the lead in this game, which is fantastic. So hopefully we can just build on this as Suntesic brings the ball forward into Ricardo Pepe. And what I like about this formation is how many players we've got going forward. And Panayotov gets his second of the game. Him playing through the middle as that centre mid on attack essentially feels like a third striker sometimes. That's how it seems to work, because he just has so many darting runs through, and he's got the pace as well to help him get behind the defence too. I mean, look at this sort of run from him here. He just gets on his bike, leaves defenders for dead, puts it past the keeper. He's a great player. And already I'm feeling this formation. This formation feels a lot more fluid in attack for us, and it feels like we have more options in attack as well. The point I was trying to make before, Panayotov just ran through, and you can see it here, right? The ball forward there were 3 players running onto it. The Mazzalas essentially act as like, I don't know, almost like inside forward / inverted wingers, but very, very narrow, and they just get forward into the area. Obviously, Panayotov comes through the middle, and you can see we've got 4 players right on the edge of the area here, and Panayotov goes from distance in the end, puts it over the bar. Maybe we should look to try and get a player to run into the area instead, but I just like the attacking options we have with this formation, maybe more than the wingers. But this does come with a price, because with all those players going forward, we are a little bit lax at the back end. Maybe not quite the strongest at the back, but this time Daniel Patrick getting inside to take the shot. Unfortunately, from distance, had time to run into the area a little bit too, but we're creating some great chances for ourselves right now. So I do really like this formation. I think it's great. And if Panayotov scores this, by the way, this would be one of the goals of the season. Oh, almost in there. Keep him making a last-ditch save there to stop it going in the back of the net. But that was a great free kick, resulting in a corner which Vasco de Sousa will be putting into the middle. I don't think de Sousa is actually his name. I think it's just Vasco Sousa. I've put the D in there somewhere because, I don't know, I clearly feel like I'm, got some sort of European flair if I put D in there. I don't know. But as Guendouzi comes forward, we stop him from getting the ball into the middle. Dante does get it in the middle, but Suntesic clears, and hopefully the end of the highlights. Now, corner coming in, which has not been dealt with, and potentially that's an issue for us. I don't think our team is particularly tall, thinking about it. Or maybe Crystal Palace are just really tall, but look at this highlight here. I mean, I'm pausing it right now, but you can see that Saliba's quite tall. Luis Felipe is quite tall, but everyone else is dwarfed by these Crystal Palace players, I should say. So potentially that's an issue for us as well. We have a few small players in the team, but it might just be the instance that Crystal Palace have some giants. But crucially, we've not considered from open play there. And that's the biggest worry for me, is the open play goals that are scored by other teams when we use the formation. But we've not really seen any chances for them so far. So I'm going to thrash the arms and say I'm far from pleased from what I've seen out there, because I think we can do better. But most importantly, because that always seems to work and it always motivates your players. Whatever the situation, unless you're like 5-0 up, it always seems to motivate your players. It's a bit bizarre. Start of the second half though, Crystal Palace are looking to come forward as they look to put the ball into the middle. We do manage to get the challenge in there and clear it, and look at this, already players arriving in attack, although we have slowed possession and play down a little bit. But again, Vasco on the ball, into Pepe, Pepe down to Pereira, back to Lavia, back to Luis Felipe. But look, it's almost like 5 strikers almost, as they do line up sometimes. I mean, I feel like I'm saying things and they just don't do what I'm saying about them, essentially. But Pepe's got the ball out wide. There's now 4 people in the area. If Pepe gets in there, that'd be 5 people in the area. 5 players in the area. Can we get a ball across? We do, and it's not scored. You hate to see it, but at least numbers are in there. I feel like this formation is maybe going to develop into we'll score more than you. That might be what it turns into, as opposed to like a 1-0 smash and grab formation. But hopefully you've seen the strengths of this formation. And I think as we've had a much more dominating performance today against Palace than we did against Wolves, I am starting to feel that this is the formation we should be looking to go down, personally. But we do need to get the win to, solidify that. And we've not got the win just yet. And we have only scored 2 goals, although we have been unlucky with hitting the crossbar a couple of times and things like that. So maybe we can't judge things too harshly just yet. Ball cleared out from the back though, and we do win possession back as Neto now brings the ball forward to Pereira, who gets it into Ricardo Pepi, yet to score on camera, and is still yet to score on camera. He hates it. Corner ball coming into the middle from Vasco. He can't really do much with it, and that is going to be that. The clock, though, is ticking down for the rest of this game. 15 minutes to go. Reluctant to make changes because I do want to see how they perform, the players, right now for the rest of this game, even when they are a little bit tired. As Daniel Patrick finds Panayotov into Pepe. Pepe now can turn, put a ball into the middle, collected by Panayotov at the far side of the box. Backwards into Lavia, into Patrick, into Panayotov. I mean, we're passing it around beautifully. The passing here is superb. When we keep possession, it's quick 1-touch football or 2-touch football. And finally, Panayotov can get his hat-trick. What a finish. I'll tell you what, maybe Panayotov does deserve a new contract, as there's a highlight straight from the kickoff. Crystal Palace to take it as they look to get the ball out wide. If they get a goal immediately here, that would be frustrating. But if we can counter now and get a goal of our own, through Ricardo Pepi, hopefully, as Daniel Patrick elects not to go for him and nearly scores himself. That was probably the right decision, actually, because Pepe didn't really make much of a movement there. That's unlucky. So, essentially for me, what we've gained from today's episode is that I think we look a lot better with this formation than wingers. However, our most dominant period was that first half against Wolves, where we played wingers and limited them to just the one shot. Now, obviously, they changed things up in the second half and it worked, and I didn't really spot it or anything like that. I don't quite know. So still a bit more testing is needed for both of these, as Pepe finally scores himself a goal, although it's going to VAR. Please let it count. I don't think it was offside. I think it was on, personally. And it has counted. You love to see it. Pepe finally getting a goal on camera. Panayotov finds the ball through to him, so an assist for Panayotov today as well is absolutely superb. And of course, the goal for Pepe will do wonders for his confidence as well, as we smash Palace 4-1, not quite 5-1. But as the clock ticks down, fantastic result for us here. The 3 points is the main thing for us. We really should have got 3 points against Wolves, I feel. We should have done a lot better in that game. We didn't. But at least we picked up 3 points here and looks very convincing doing so. So I still think we need to test things out a little bit with different formations, but I am leaning towards the 3 midfielders, I would say. Actually, next time out, I think we come back pretty sharpish. I think we come back for Liverpool and Cardiff. 2 teams, obviously a big battle with Cardiff there, big rivalry given they are also in Wales. But Liverpool, one of the best teams in the league. I think playing the narrow formation that we've got against a big team like Liverpool could be a really good test for us. So thank you ever so much for watching today's episode. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. And of course, if you have done, make sure you do drop a like on the video for me. Subscribe if you're new around here and leave a comment down below for the YouTube algorithm. Until next time, have a good one. Goodbye.